guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Fran, I'm from Venezuela, and today we are going to be watching a video called Basic Workers' Rights, British versus American. I don't really know anything about this, so I'm super excited to find out. And comment, like, subscribe, and start.
Growing up in the States, I had to show up to work regardless of how sick I was. I mean, unless I was absolutely dying, and even
Yes.
then I had to call around to find replacements. If you're from any other country and you're like, why the heck are Americans like that?
They have a very strict work
video,
culture.
We're going to be talking a little bit about the differences between US and UK culture in regards to leaving work and work benefits. And if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Evan Ediger, and this is kind of what I do. I'm
okay.
British American. I like making videos
British
about
American, so both sides.
And well, recently, last week, I made a video about how I got my first job in the UK, and a lot of you wanted to know more about those interesting differences between working for a US company in the US versus a UK company in the UK. And also a little bit of intermingling. So that's where this video came from. Now,
I'm guessing that was pretty
in the
different.
intro, no matter how sick I was, when I was working at a Pizza Hut, a food service restaurant, I was expected to show up to work or find a replacement, which is something that most people in the UK, when I told them this, said, well, isn't that what the hiring manager is supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. He should be the one kind of balancing. Why is it down to the individual employee? Well,
yeah,
it's because when you're sick
like
in the US, that is actually
your fault.
You're guilty of this, and you need to pay the company back by doing another job and finding someone else to replace. That's just the culture. Whereas because I was brought up like this, my first couple jobs in the UK, I showed up incredibly ill during days in which
and they were like, go home.
Told to go home, which blew my mind. What do you mean? What? I already showed up. I'm coughing all over the place. But
we don't want your germs.
To do right? No, I was sent home, and I could get healthy. What? But one of the most interesting aspects of this whole thing was that I was paid for when I was sick, which was the first time I'd ever experienced that. And most Americans will tend to agree. What happens is when you are ill and you have to ask the boss for the day off because you're sick, a lot of times that comes out of holiday pay. Holiday.
Yeah.
Holiday. You see, most UK companies have something in place for this, in the inevitable likelihood that an employee is sick. If you do get sick for longer than 3 days, the government actually can step in and ensure you get a little bit under £100 per week, plus whatever your employer agrees to give you until you get better.
Okay, that's great.
A nice little thing to fall upon. Now, in the sad circumstance, you are sick for a very long time, you can go to get a doctor's note, but as we have nationalized healthcare, that doesn't cost anything. On the other hand,
that's amazing.
In the US, the land of the free, there is no federally mandated sick pay. So regardless of if you're sick for 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, you are unpaid for the most part, which isn't really the best situation. And especially if you're someone that is living paycheck to paycheck, which as of March 2022, is 64% of Americans, nearly 2 out of every 3 Americans is living paycheck to paycheck. I don't really think you can blame someone for going to work when they're ill if financially they don't have a choice. Cards that they've been dealt as best as they can. Also, given the fact that a lot of American employers demand a doctor's note if you are ill for more than 1 or 2 days, which is then an entire extra day you need to take off to go to your doctor. And if you don't have great insurance, for instance,
it comes out of your pocket.
Different retail restaurants and things, well, that's $75 a session. So now I've lost essentially a day or two's wages, plus I'm freaking ill still, and I have to heal.
No, it sucks.
It's just not a good situation. And the thing about this issue is, it's really not political in the slightest. In fact, 94% of self-identified liberals and 81% of self-identified conservatives agree that paid sick days should be a basic human worker right. But then if such a huge grouping of these two sides that usually war all the time finally agree on it, why do we not have any change? Well, there's an even bigger percentage of corporations and employers that really don't give a shit about what you think, and well, they have a lot of money and they'd like to keep it that way. And so they've successfully lobbied to ensure that no change has happened.
No, that sucks.
To any other part of the US law? Almost all of it, actually. Yes, it's sad. And sadly,
it's depressing.
As is the case in most of these things, the people with the largest amount of money have the largest voice in US politics, and so can shout down the massive majority of people who just want this basic right, so that they can have more money, which is, of course, the American dream. Now, given that this is the sad state of affairs, most Americans have found a loophole on how to have paid sick leave. And sadly, you probably know where this is going. Well, it comes out of their holiday pay. One of the reasons why Americans don't travel or go on holidays as anyone else in Western civilization, well, they use them for sick days. Now, regardless of whether or not you get paid time off, during your next trip abroad or to the local shops, today's video sponsor, Revolut, can actually help you with that.
Good
Revolut
segue.
is a global financial super app used by 18 million plus people around the world for all things money. Spending, saving, investing. That's Revolut. Now, in terms of spending, with a lot of different retailers out there,
I'm gonna skip it.
holiday pay. Now, most people realize that Americans don't travel as much as many of their European counterparts. And a lot of Americans will say, well, it's because the country is so big and there's not many places to visit outside of like Mexico and Canada. But usually as soon as somebody makes this argument,
there are a lot of places.
Australia enters the chat. But it has more to do with the fact that there are no federal protections for holiday pay in the States at all. I don't know how many times I've told this story on this channel, but I'll tell it again. I worked 5 years at a Pizza Hut working 30 hours a week, and I earned 0 days paid holiday, whereas I worked under 20 hours in London and managed to get 2 days a month. I was blown away with how I was able to earn anything, considering that I'd worked 5 years and hadn't even gotten a single raise from my $2.13
no, that's crazy.
Somehow, legally, they didn't have to. How was that legal, though? Well, federally, there aren't any laws about holiday pay. The government thought it'd be better to just leave that up to the employers. And as we all know, employers don't want to have the best intentions. They don't. Now, my state decided to have it so that once you work over a certain amount of time, in my case 30 hours, you are entitled to some paid holiday. However, they made it a step function, meaning you have to cross over that threshold of 30. There isn't a gradual increase like, say, the way we pay taxes.
Okay.
So that's just going to allow capitalistic companies to be capitalistic companies.
Yes.
To ensure I never was allowed to work over 33 hours a week just so they could make sure I averaged out under that and they would never ever have to pay me a single day of paid holiday. That's just what companies are going to do.
It's a perfect system for them.
Do that. That's the point of government, to step in and give people the basic rights that they're entitled. I had a friend that worked at Google in the UK and got 30 days of paid holiday, moved to the US, and lost half of them because 15 days, that's quite a lot in the US. Well, in the UK, we are mandated to have at least 28 days of paid holiday. That's 5.6 weeks of paid holiday, including bank holidays. If an employer wants to, they can give you more than that, or less, but that's just how it is. Though, to be fair, the US Department of Labor has said that 76% of private sector employees got paid holiday, and the average of that was 10. Well, as there's no federal law, employers don't have to, and so they won't unless they're forced to, which is why it's good that in certain states, they actually have. In states like Vermont, for every 52 hours you work, you get 1 hour of paid holiday. And for those of you that enjoy math, that means that working 40 hours a week in the state of Vermont, every single week, at the end of the year, you earn 5 days of paid holiday.
Wow, that's
40 hours. That's horrible. And of those 5 days, if we know that the average American is sick 3.9 days of the year and they don't get paid sick days, well, of those 5 days in Vermont, you've got 1 left if you've got an average amount of sickness. Congratulations. Where are you gonna go? Dorney Park? It's a bit far. And all of these things together really show how the culture is.
To your neighbors.
When you ask your boss for a day off in the US and they act as if, even though you're fully entitled to it, you're hurting them and you are doing them a disservice to take the holiday that you're legally allowed to have in certain states. It's just such a weird contrast to countries like Germany, in which their employers force them to go on holiday because they understand that a well-rested employee is going to be a better one.
Employees are not good.
And be happier in general. I mean, the UK isn't the greatest thing, but I'm thankful that we do have those 28 days of paid holiday so that people can take off, people can enjoy their lives and not just work every single day of their lives. Now, as a quick asterisk here, there are some companies in the US and the UK that both employ this new magical thing called unlimited time off. Unlimited paid holiday. It sounds like a dream. I was offered a job like this once, and that was the first thing I had a question about. I went, how does that work? Unlimited time off? I can just take off? And he was like, yeah, you have unlimited, as opposed to like 28 days or 29. You have unlimited.
Wait, what?
So I'm just gonna get hired and then just start going on holiday. And he went, well, you do have to make sure you work enough, like you feel like you've gotten enough done. And I was like, well, that's not unlimited then, now is it? Now, truth be told, I did go on holiday way more than any other employee, but I was a rare case. In fact, the whole concept of unlimited paid holiday, it is found, means that people take off less because they don't realize how much they have. If you have 28 days and you've spent 14, by the end of the year, sometimes you want to just make sure you spend those final days. If it's unlimited, you don't actually have an end limit, and so most people will spend less. So there it is, companies giving you something that looks like it's beautiful. It is a Trojan horse. It's actually so you take off less. Classic capitalism. Now, obviously, sometimes people die. Wow, we're getting real dark. Bereavement leave is something that you would really expect at the end of the day.
Like family members are dying.
To have, but they don't. The UK does have a law, however, if you do lose a dependent, which I'm thankful does include things like housemate, which the US's does not. But if you do lose a dependent in the UK, the law states you're to be given a reasonable amount of time off to grieve.
How much is reasonable?
Reasonable. That's the law.
Yep,
you
how
must
much?
be reasonable. And it's odd that this type of thing just works in the UK. In the law, it says, be reasonable. In the US, that's not, I don't think that would ever work. As much as I don't really feel protected by a clause saying it has to be reasonable, in the UK, they do kind of follow through with that most of the time. In the US, though, the only thing we really have is the Family and Medical Leave Act, which allows for 12 weeks of leave-protected unpaid leave. Which is good, you can come back to your job at the end of it, and ta-da, you've still got it. However, there's so many asterisks revolving around this
I don't think it's that
FMLA
easy.
or My Life America Act. There's a big chance it doesn't even apply to you to get this unpaid leave, and you're going to have to work regardless of what you're going through. Do you work for a company with fewer than 50 people? Well, congratulations, you do not qualify. You have to keep working through your grief. Did one of your loved ones wait to pass away until after you got your new job? You're also not entitled to any leave-protected unpaid leave.
Oh, no.
You've got to come to work grieving because you have to stay at the same company for at least a year before that can happen.
At least a year.
I'm assuming most people are afraid to leave jobs because that transitionary period, there are so many benefits the government is no longer giving you. So if you work for a company with fewer than 50 people or you've recently switched jobs, the FMLA just does not apply to you. And in fact, on the official website for the FMLA, it states, if you know ahead of time that you'll be taking leave for a new child or a planned medical treatment for yourself or a
but
family
sometimes
member,
you don't know.
You are required to give your employer 30 days advance notice. In the case of planned medical treatment, you must try to schedule the medical treatment when it will not unduly disrupt your employer's business.
Of course.
So, next time you plan on being sick or plan on having someone die or burst or anything else, make sure
I'll tell my employee.
Inconvenience your employer. That is in the US law. And so the difference here being that in the UK, employers are asked to give a reasonable time off to their employees when they're going through grief. And in the US, employees are asked to give their employer reasonable time off when the employee is going through grief. It's just a country for the haves, not the have-nots.
Like, it sucks. It's like, I'm gonna tell you, like, oh, well, I plan on, I know, my dying in about 3 months. So if that's okay to you, like with you, like, I'm gonna take some time off. That's crazy. And that should definitely change because I think people, you know, like, when people are like dealing with grief and you know when you lose someone close to you, of course you're not going to be like given 100% at your job. So it's in the best interests of those companies to actually like give you you know, some time for bereavement or grief or whatever they want to call it, because I don't think they'd notice that, you know, people that are like depressed or sad or overworked or stressed, they're not going to give you like what you want to. So why not just give them to them?
The employees have so little protection, you have to ask for permission for one of your relatives to die. What the f***? And the last big leaves we're going to be talking about today, the big one, the elephant in the room. No offense to your mother.
What is it?
Maternity leave and paternity leave. What was that?
Yeah, that
we've all
doesn't,
seen the math
don't even
before.
go there.
The fact that the US has 0 days of
you have to like have a baby. If you're like, for fathers, I think it's even less. But if you're, you know, you're a woman, you're a mother, I think you don't really get, I think they give you like a week, 2 weeks at most. So you have to like, seriously, you give birth and then like 2 weeks later, like, okay, so we expect you to, you know, get back to work, you know, about 2 weeks. You're like, what if you had like a C-section or something that takes some time to recover? And even if you don't have surgery and you just, you know, you had birth, you know, you have a newborn that is not even like a month old. How are you expecting them to get back to work? That seems insane.
Paid maternity leave is still disgusting. How it's not protected at all
that's crazy.
is disgusting. In the UK, employees can take up to 52 weeks of maternity leave and their jobs are protected for when they come back. And of those 52 weeks, the first 6 are paid at 90% of their salary. The next 33 are paid at 90% or £156.66, whichever is smaller. And then the next weeks are actually unpaid. But of that period, you still have your job protected, you still have some money coming in, and you can take care of your child during the
and you know that you're still going to have a job.
Paternity leave, the UK definitely falls flat here, only providing fathers with 1 to 2 weeks of paid paternity leave, and of that, it's that £156.66 or 90% of your salary, whichever is smaller. But it is 2 weeks that you're allowed to take off.
Yeah, but 2 weeks
and you also get 2 prenatal appointments before the birth of your child. So if you need to take off to check on how the baby's doing in the mama's belly, you can do that. Now, when it comes to the US,
and because like
that Family
the mom
and
needs
Medical
help.
Leave Act we were talking about earlier, that's the only thing the US has in place for expectant mothers. unpaid leave. This means as soon as employees are finished going into labor, they need to go back into the labor force because there's no other way of affording to take care of that child. There's nothing there to protect them. And with just how expensive US hospital bills can be when it comes to having a child there, it's no surprise how many reports are coming out of mothers going back to work within a couple days after just having a child in America. So wrapping this up,
2 weeks.
Sick pay, holiday pay, bereavement pay, and maternity leave are basic workers' rights that people in the UK and around the world get to enjoy, whereas people in the US just don't. The only way an American worker can hope to get any of these basic workers' rights is if by chance their employer just happens to, out of the goodness of their heart, provide it, which doesn't happen very likely, which is why it's good to see that there's a large resurgence in the States of workers' unions coming back into fashion. Starbucks, Amazon, Apple, everyone is fed up with the fact that they're not getting the rights. The government isn't protecting them, and so people are demanding they protect themselves, forming unions and demanding the rights they deserve. How long did we have to put up with people clapping their hands for essential workers? And now that COVID is, for the most part, cut and dried, we're seeing people go, oh, well, you're not that essential, no pay raise for you. What do you want to get paid more than $15 to flip a burger? Well, considering the cost of living has gone up, yes. I think they do. It is really horrible that at the end of the day in the US, we have to fight for those basic freedoms at the bottom, but that's the case when people with a lot of money don't want things to change, and I don't think they do. Genuine question.
Obviously they don't.
Within our lifetime, you will see the US government step in and provide these basic rights that every other country's citizens have had for many years. I'd like to be hopeful and say yes, but the way that most American politics is run by money, it's looking very doubtful. But regardless of your stance
sadly,
on these different types of leave, leave me a comment. Tell me what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. Or if you'd like, you can watch another researched video over here on my channel. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a nice day. I am sweaty. I'll see you next time.
Okay.
Goodbye.
TMI. Yeah, this was very interesting. I think what shocked, well, I sort of like, I knew sort of how, you know, workers are treated in the US. The answer is not good. I think that's the main takeaway. But I didn't know, like, if you put it like that in comparison to another country that obviously has, like, I wouldn't say, like, obviously they're great laws compared to the US. It could be better. But you know, there's always like room for improvement. But obviously, like, compared to the US, like, it's the dream. Because again, like, if you put it like in comparison, you're blown away by how the US, like the way that the US like treats its employers and the workers in general. It's dreadful. It's not good. It's depressing. It sucks. It's terrible. And again, if you compare it to something like the UK, like, oh my God, like how come like they're not more like the UK in that sense? Like the fact that you can you need to take some days, or you don't plan to get sick. Obviously, no one wants to get sick. But if you do, and you know that you're not gonna have to. Like you're worried about, like, I have to find, a replacement, and I can't really take days off, because I'm not gonna get paid. And also, like, it's gonna probably, well, not always, but if you don't have good health insurance, you're gonna have to pay it as well. So, the doctor visit, like, it's gonna also be deducted from your pay. That is also gonna be reduced. So you're like, oh my God, like getting sick, like a nightmare situation. But even in the UK, it's just like normal, and it's not that just the UK. I know that in a lot of countries they're similar. Like it's okay, like you can get sick. It's normal. Like people do get sick. No one wants to do it, but stuff happens. Life happens. You get sick. It's okay. Take some time off. You don't want to feed people in the office to get whatever you're coming down with, because that way, like, it's a nightmare, because then everyone gets sick and then no one's working. So of course, like, if you feel like I feel like I'm coming down with something, you'll just like stay home, please. We don't want you like contaminating the whole office and being like, you're gonna be infecting everyone. And the thing about the bereavement leave, I did not know that in the UK was, it's okay. You can sort of like negotiate. It's not like a standard, like 2 weeks, a week, whatever. It's sort of like you can discuss it with your employer. Maybe I'm gonna have to take some time off because I'm gonna, have to like sort things out. I'm gonna have to like plan a funeral. I don't know. Like when someone dies, there's a lot of like there's a bureaucracy that you have to take care of, sadly. It's not just, like the planning a funeral thing. There's a lot of like legal things that you have to take care of. So it's okay. Like you can take a week and a half, I don't know, 2 weeks, whatever you feel like is necessary. And it's good because again, you can negotiate those things and you can talk to people and you can talk to your employer, and then you can sort of like reach an agreement, which, it's a good thing. And the thing with the babies, yeah, that blows my mind. The fact that in the US, women are usually they just like take like 2 weeks after giving birth. That's an insane thing to do. Like, not just like if you have to like take care of a newborn that, they're very fragile. It takes up so much time. Like they're constantly like you have to be like constantly taking care of them. It's not like, oh, I can just like leave for a few hours, and then I can come back. Like newborns require a lot of attention, and not just that, because you as the mother, like you just like went through a grueling process of giving birth. So how are you expecting to like take care of a newborn and also like get back to work 2 weeks later? That's crazy. Not just the fact that you have to like do something with the baby and you have to like, I don't know, someone has to take care of the baby. Your body, like it's still recuperating. Like you went through something that's pretty, like life-changing, and it takes a toll on your body. How are you expecting to just like go back to work 2 weeks later? Like, yeah, sure, go. And that's crazy. I've never really understood how it works and how women in the US like give birth. I don't really know, and then get back to work. I don't really know, because that seems crazy. And yeah, I think the one thing that the UK it's reasonable, it's 50 weeks. I don't know how much is that, but I'm guessing it's probably like closer to 6 months, which is good. It gives you enough time to sort of like get things started, like get used to your life with a baby, your body, you're gonna recover, and then after 6 months or whatever it is, and you can like get a nanny, get the baby in at kindergarten or whatever it is that you like, daycare or whatever it is that that as an organization or that takes care of babies. So it's okay, but it's gonna also give you some time to sort of like sort your life out with a newborn. But the thing that I was saying, it's probably that they can improve. It's the thing about the fathers. I think fathers also deserve some father's leave. I think it's called like father's leave, maternity leave. So it would be like fatherhood leave. I don't know what the right term is. But yeah, they should. I think that could definitely be a little more, because it's just 2 weeks, which 2 weeks is, again, in comparison to the US, incredible. But they should, they're not, even if they're not like going through the whole, their bodies, they're not going through a huge process. There's still new fathers. They still have to adjust to, again, the fatherhood in general and taking care of babies. But also like the mother needs help. Because again, maybe she had a C-section, maybe she had the birth was not she had complications, so you as the father need to support her, and maybe 2 weeks is maybe not enough. If she needs more time to recover, she can't do things around the house, she can't like take care of the baby at the same time. So you as the father should support her in both like taking care of the house and the baby and her. So maybe 2 weeks is not enough, and depending on each situation. So maybe that should be, I don't know, but I don't know how much like you should have, maybe closer to a month. I think that sounds reasonable. And yeah, if they can like afford it, I mean, the government and private companies can afford that, they should definitely do so. But yeah, this was very eye-opening, quite sad and depressing, not gonna lie, because it sucks that millions of people in the US, like that's their reality. So it sucks, and it's kind of eye-opening to see like things should change, definitely. And I know it's not easy, because like he said, companies are definitely gonna be like, no, we can't do anything about this. But things should definitely change, and I'm glad that he mentioned like there's a lot of like unions and stuff like that that are sort of working towards getting like proper workers' rights. But that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.